All right, now today is International Anti-Corruption Day, and the United Nations is urging people across the countries to continue to work on innovative solutions to win the battle against corruption and to ensure that precious resources serve the people of the world.
According to the United Nations Development Program, in developing countries, funds lost to corruption are estimated at 10 times the amount of official development assistance. But judging by the present administration's anti-corruption drive, Nigeria is on the right path to addressing this endemic societal problem.
Now, with high-profile convictions witnessed in recent times and the recovery of looted funds, it may be right to say that if the country continues in this order, in no distant time, it would rid this consuming anti-developmental challenge. All right, joining me now via Skype is the Executive Director of Africa Network for Environment and Economic Justice, David Ugola. He's also the Senior Advisor on Corruption and Governance to Africa Bar Association. David, it's good to have you join us right now. Now, today everyone's talking about anti-corruption, and we're talking about uniting for corruption, uniting against corruption. So far, you have monitored some of the issues, especially when it comes to funds that were proceeds of corruption being returned to Nigeria and being distributed. Talk to us on how the anti-corruption war is succeeding or otherwise.
First, again, let me thank the TVC crew for this opportunity. I think, first, today is very important, it's symbolic. Is important for Nigeria because at least the return of the Abacha II to Nigeria demonstrates that there is victory in the fight against corruption. The victory is not just for the country alone, at least for the very poorest of the poor in the country who are currently benefiting from the disbursement of the 5,000 naira monthly that is going to the very poor across the entire country. For us, it marks a beginning that tackling corruption has a benefit, and the benefit goes to the very poor people who are the victim of corruption. If you look across the country today, the level of poverty is huge, and Nigeria today attracts a lot of attention because of the level of poverty in the country, in spite of the wealth God have accrued to this country. For fighting corruption, making it possible for people to benefit from the corruption fight is a huge victory, and that for me is something that we take very seriously. And in the distribution of the Abacha looted asset returned back from Switzerland, it is demonstrated that if you have a government that is politically committed in tackling corruption, working with civil society across the country, the fight against corruption can be very beneficial to the people.
David, let me interrupt a little bit. A lot of Nigerians still don't feel comfortable with the disbursement of that money to a lot of people, but you are close by. You have seen the disbursement, you have witnessed and monitored the disbursement. Can you talk to Nigerians? How satisfied are you with the disbursement of this fund to the poorest of the poor, like it is said?
Well, first, in the first place, you can't blame Nigeria. There's a trust problem in the country, particularly against what is going on in the country today. The government has not taken responsibility to build trust, and that, unfortunately, is affecting everything the government is doing. If you look in the last few weeks now, the Sowore issue has created a really tension in the country, and this do not give government any credibility at all. But on the Abacha II that you have seen in the country that has returned to the country, I can tell you that the money is going to the poor. The poor people are receiving the money. We live in a very complex country where a lot of ethnicity problem, religious problems. So at any point in time, things are done. People hardly trust government. But as civil society monitoring the return of Abacha II, I can tell you that the money is going to the poor across the country.
Okay.
But what has happened is that there are problems in some area. And some of those problems we are bringing it to the attention of the government. And with the redress mechanism government has put in place, we're using those systems to tackle some of those challenges. But I can tell you, and today we are going to Kuje area where the NCTO will be disbursing some of the money as well too today. Okay. And the question is that we have over 100 million poor Nigerians across the country. These $322.5 million can't cover everybody. So everybody is not receiving the money. So this is the real challenge.
Okay, this is actually a big challenge, but we'll address it as we get along. Thank you very much, David Ugolo, for speaking to us on TVC Breakfast. You're watching TVC Breakfast. Now, today is International Anti-Corruption Day, and the United Nations is urging people across the countries to continue to work on innovative solutions to win the battle against corruption and to ensure that precious resources serve the peoples of the world.
According to the United Nations Development Program, in developing countries, funds lost to corruption are estimated at 10 times the amount of official development assistance. But judging by the present administration's anti-corruption drive, Nigeria is on the right path to addressing this endemic societal problem.
With high-profile convictions witnessed in recent times and the recovery of looted funds, it may be right to say that if the country continues in this order, in no distant time, it will be rid this consuming anti-developmental challenge. Joining me now via Skype is the Executive Director of African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, David Ugolo. He's also the Senior Advisor on Corruption and Governance to Africa Bar Association. David, it's good to have you join us right now. Now, walk us through how today should originally be commemorated. A day set aside to create more awareness against the struggles and the fight against corruption, which is found across all countries of the world. How should today mean to anyone, and what should people do today?
First, I think today is very symbolic. It provides an opportunity for people around the world to again highlight how corruption has undermined development, and also opportunity to show and point good examples on how to tackle corruption. And for our own case in Nigeria, we've got huge opportunity to again raise the issue of corruption on the political agenda. And what you will be seeing across the country today is that quite a number of organizations, government officials will be again pointing to success story challenges that have made it impossible to fight corruption in a more sustainable way in the country. But for us in ANEG, as civil society working on anti-corruption issues in the country in the last 20 years, we see today as an opportunity to again commend the government, at the same time raise issues around where there are challenges. And we are very happy that today provides an opportunity for us to also again meet with those who are benefiting from the fighting of corruption. You will recall that the $322.5 million that was returned back from Switzerland is currently being disbursed across the entire country for the poorest of the poor as cash transfer program. And we're meeting with them in Kuje today, and one of the key things we are highlighting is that victims of corruption must be seen to be benefiting from the fight of corruption. We must commend the government for accepting to allow the return Abacha loot to be disbursed to the very poor people. There are issues on how this money is being managed before, but now there are opportunities for the very poor people in the country to benefit from the fight against corruption. Asset recovery is increasingly becoming a very important anti-corruption strategy of dealing with grand corruptions around the world. And today's celebration provides opportunity again to point to the Sustainable Development Goal 16, which also provide a framework on how recovered assets should be used to finance development in poor countries and developing countries. And Nigeria has been very good in doing this, and we hope that this will be sustained. And today provides opportunity for all those working on anti-corruption issue to unite with government, with civil society, to speak with one voice and highlight the benefit of tackling corruption.
David, if you see the corruption index table by Transparency International, out of 175 countries, Nigeria still ranks 144. What do you think is still behind? And if you look at the fight against corruption, a lot of people say the government is doing so well in fighting corruption, but Nigeria is still not moving so fast on the index. What do you think are the challenges going ahead?
I can't blame the people. You can't blame people when they are cynical. One of the first things that corruption does is that it again erodes trust and makes people to be cynical about their government. And that's what corruption has done to Nigeria. Even if efforts are put in place to be tackling the challenge, it definitely not going to happen just one day or 1 year. So there are challenges, no doubt. And massive corruption is still going on in some sectors, no doubt. And this again raises the question of people trusting the government. And so it is incumbent upon the government to continue to raise the profile of tackling corruption in the country. And one of the key ways of doing this is for government to be open in producing information. Information is key to tackling corruption. Government need to be open. For example, the asset declaration form of public officials need to be disclosed. People need to have access to them. And if people don't have access to these informations, it makes people to be cynical about government policy. And even the international community wants to see government actually putting in place institutional framework that will deal with the challenge of grand corruption. And what we have seen in Nigeria today, look what has happened in NDDC. We are very happy when the president announced the forensic audit. But you can see that after the president announced the forensic audit for NDDC, nothing has happened. We have seen confusion. And this is not very good for the reputation of the country.
All right.
We do believe very strongly that if the government is committed, need to exercise the political will, they need to demonstrate this, and this will increase the trust that people have on the government.
All right. David Ugola, Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. Thank you for talking to us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you.